Periscope, super quick. YouTube, rare quick. Come on, do it, YouTube. There it is. We are live, everybody. What's going on? Live before lock. Special guest. Here's the reveal. Drum roll. Let's be drum rolling.
Timpani, please. Here we go.
EMAC in the house. Live before lock. We're scrambling up the people this holiday season. So I am joined by EMAC. What's going on? I'm excited to do this with you, man. This is fun.
This is going to be good. We have not done a show together since, I believe, baseball, unless we snuck a football one in at some point. But it's been a while, so this will be a good one. I'm playing. I didn't get into Yahoo today. Once I remembered, I got my days confused. I knew I was filling in, but for some reason I thought it was Thursday, a Tuesday and a Thursday, but today's Wednesday. I don't know. The holidays really messed with me this year. So, but in any event, here we are. I'm running out 117 lineups here on DraftKings, so I am set and ready to rock.
Going big, nice. I'm playing just on Yahoo. My family's still in town, so I couldn't be like, you know what? I'm gonna play 150 on Yahoo or on FanDuel. I'm gonna jam in these Yahoo contests that I'm gonna have to pay attention to. So, Yahoo only for me tonight. I'm enjoying their overlay. Thank you. I'd like to thank them very much for paying me to play. I appreciate that. Oh,
absolutely. And for you've heard it on all of our platforms. You've heard it across the DFS world. If you're not playing their first when they're running these 25% overlays, you're missing out on likely the best tournament each week.
Yeah.
Just because there is no rake. They're paying out 25% more than they're bringing in, which is fantastic. You still got to monetize. You still got to win. That's not necessarily easy. I mean, so we've done 2 football and 1 basketball for the millionaire. So week 15 for football, I put in the 10 entries. I got out $200, broke even. Yeah. For NBA, same thing. But for week 16 football, $200 in, $2,400 out.
Can't beat that.
Very nice. Very nice. So there'll be an article up tomorrow, free, for those of you in front of the paywall, talking about Yahoo picks. It'll be the 3rd week in a row I've done that. You can go back and look at some of the other ones, help some people do well. But again, it's tricky. In week 17, a lot of minefields, but we got basketball tonight.
Basketball went very well for me on Yahoo for the Christmas holiday. Multiple X times my buy-in, so I'm very happy. Had a decent shot at it. Needed Ricky Rubio to have a ceiling game. Didn't quite get there, but he was still fine, and that put me in the top 40. So I'll take it.
Did you play any Zubac?
I had quite a bit. I want to say 50%. So 5 of 10. Could have been 4, could have been 6. I don't totally remember at this point. But somewhere in that neighborhood. Had quite a bit. Flat minimum on Yahoo made it pretty easy.
Yeah, I ended up going with 0. I thought, there's just a chance Draymond Green, wakes up and does well. And who knows what's happening with Chandler. And if he does, he'll be okay. So breaking even without him, I was happy. I don't think I had him on a single entry, but good God, what's happened to Draymond?
Oh, I know. He can't shoot.
Yeah.
Speaking of people that can't shoot, this guy can't shoot today in a game because he is now out. No Kyle Lowry tonight. Official. I took him out as soon as he was ruled to be doubtful earlier today. So, what do you think of people on Toronto? Is there any specific point guard for the Raptors that is interesting to you?
You mean Fred Van Elite, since I talk about him all the time?
Maybe.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so here's the caveat. So I like to muck around, have some fun with people. We do the Fred Van Elite fan club. I am the only one required to play him. You guys don't have to, but recently it's actually been decent when we've had his teammates have been out and he's had a few moments. So a lot more people have been joining in on me. He is 5,900. That, to me, I think is going to be just a little bit much on DraftKings. I think there are a bunch of better plays on FanDuel. He's adequate. Now, I don't play on FanDuel very often, but I wanted to look at the pricing for him. So I think I'm okay with him on FanDuel. DraftKings, he's at that break point. If you project him for about 30 fantasy points, which feels right, you're kind of at that 5x. When you're on 5x and you're starting to use the optimizers and such, that's the point where people start falling out, particularly on the 10-game slates. So if you don't want to play him or don't have him, don't. He's not someone I would recommend going after, because I don't think he has a 40 fantasy point upside. And I think you can find people in that 57 to 67 range that legitimately could crest to the 40 fantasy point plateau.
Yeah, if I were playing on FanDuel tonight, I'd be surprised if I got any sort of volume. 5,600 looks like a perfectly reasonable price. I wouldn't be upset if I got him, but he's priced to where he should be with Lowry out. I think the $19 price point on Yahoo is a little interesting. I wouldn't have a problem going there. The only problem for this game really is just that it's more defensive than anything else. Correct. And relatively slow. If the Raptors had a slightly different matchup, it might change my tune a little bit.
Yep. So I just went and looked at my crunch that I'm getting ready to upload here. I do not have him on any lineups other than the hand-built ones that I put in for the old Fred Van Elite contest here.
Sure. Any other Raptors that are interesting to you since we're on that game? Does that open up anything for you?
Is Serge Ibaka a tiny bit? He's back. He's missed, I think it's 4 games now. He had tender knee, swelling on the knee, etc. I'm assuming if he's back, he's going to be fully healthy. I would consider him. I've got him set with the field. Normally, if I thought he was healthy, I'd probably double the field in this situation. But we haven't seen him in a week and a half. So he's the one guy I believe I have from this game. I can quickly double check. I feel like now that I get to do a show talking about percentages and all this stuff right up to lock, it's a little more interesting than at the beginning of the show. James Johnson, 3,700. I matched the field at 8%. For him, I wouldn't mind going over that. He has, coming back from his whatever surgery it was. I can't remember. A hernia. Okay, I couldn't remember if it was that or it was abdominal muscle, similar. But that's been a while. Let's see. A few days off may have helped him, but the 3,700 price point has me doing some cartwheels here. So I'm matching the field at 8% on that one.
Yeah, I like James Johnson quite a bit actually. I have him in a couple lineups on Yahoo. He's the flat $10 minimum. Mm-hmm. I'm actually looking a little bit at Josh Richardson. I can never say Richardson quickly for some reason. It's like I need to just say that over and over again to train my tongue. Something about it. Just can't roll it off the tongue. I have a little bit.
Did you have too many nights thinking of Denise Richardson? Is that why it's slow?
I have thought of her on a couple nights in my life, but I have him in 2 lineups. I have Hassan Whiteside in 2 lineups. I ended up getting more Miami than I ever really expected to get. I'm not really happy about it, but I kind of like the price point on Johnson, obviously at the flat 10. And then, Whiteside, he's just a walking ball of upside. He can tank, but he can completely break a slate. And at $26 on Yahoo, I don't see any problem with him like having a ceiling game and getting to 45 plus. That's right in Whiteside's wheelhouse. There's not really like a center on Toronto that should be a major problem for him, but not like I'm advocating all the Whiteside in the world. He is still Hassan Whiteside. He could play 18 minutes tonight and it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, and they would definitely not be 18 minutes in the fourth quarter. So
yeah, no, I don't get the sense that it'll be crunch time if he's only playing 18. That Spoelstra will send him in with the poops or something. B Falloon in chat says, "Hey Josh, Blake keeps ending up in all my builds on Yahoo. What exposure do you have of him?" I have 20% right now, so 2 lineups. That was fluctuating in between like 2 and 6 as I was making tweaks. I would have no problem going all the way up to that point. I think he's in a really nice spot, particularly with that price point.
Yep, he's a guy that I actually went ahead and boosted for what I wanted to do. And so sometimes, and this is just one way how I do it when I'm building the lineups with Fantasy Cruncher, it's very flexible, of course, using the Fantasy Cruncher add-on here at awesemo.com. Promo code, Josh. Can you give them the promo code so they can get 1 week free if they so choose?
I can. Promo code is live before lock. One big word. If you enter that, you can get any package you choose. 7-day free trial. And you can pick one of them that includes Fantasy Cruncher, and you'll get that as well. You can't beat it, really.
So what I did, and I went with Griffin and with Drummond. I like them both. Think they can both do. I don't know who's going to guard them on the Wizards. Griffin should be in the mix. Yeah, he should be in the mix for a triple-double. Drummond should be in the mix for a 20-20. Are they both going to do that in the same game? I don't know. So outside of where I made some specific game stacks, which are outside of the 110 lineups that I'm running here, I have said I goose their projection, so I'm capped them, but at 25% exposure because I don't want it to overrun the rest of my player pool. But I put in a rule and I said play only one of Drummond or Griffin on the same team, and I've got 25% of Griffin and 22% of Drummond, but I know they're not on the same team, so I don't mind doing that with their projections, because if they were together, I don't know if they would get 100 points.
Yeah.
There's a decent chance separately one of them's going to get 50, and now I've got that one of them on half of my lineups, which is what I was going for. So just different tips and tricks that you can use to create some scenarios that you want.
Yeah, I was looking. I had a lineup come up with Drummond and Blake together, and with Yahoo being a limited 10 entries, I took a look at it, and then I tried thinking, okay, like if I did want Blake and Drummond together, I would probably want Wall or Beal as well, and really go heavy on that game. And when I had all three of those guys in there, it was 41 for Drummond, 40 for Blake, let's say 35 for Beal. There's not a lot left to build out the rest of that lineup. I couldn't get to anything even remotely close to something that I would like, so I bailed on that endeavor. So I made sure that I don't have any Drummond Blake together. I didn't want to have to guess on whether I wanted to fill it out with Ariza or Jeff Green, or if Markieff Morris decided to stay on the floor today. I'm stealing Adam's joke from earlier this morning.
The guy is terrible, but I've gone through and I've tried to decide what is the team doing the next day. If they're getting on a plane and flying, is he actually playing more, as opposed to if he can get to go out after the game? That's to the point of where I'm at with him. It's like something is just amiss this year with him, because he is just getting way too many stupid fouls and he's not consistent at all. But then all of a sudden he'll rear back with one of those 40 fantasy point games. And you're like, well, why didn't I have him? And then you go look at the game log, 17, 18, 26. Those are minutes, not fantasy points. So it's not fun playing him.
So we've been treating the Live Before Lock show as a more holistic show, not necessarily breaking down game by game. So I'll pose this question to you. What's your favorite play of the day? Who do you have the most of, I guess? Probably the way to say that.
Karl Anthony Towns. Now, this is the DraftKings site. So I've got two. I've got Towns at 34% and Montrezl Harrell at 34%.
Okay.
Kind of the reason I ended up with that way is I went and I capped Towns at 35%. When I spread out Griffin and Drummond, I was able to get all three of them up to the cap, including Towns. Now, Towns I can see is on a few teams with one or the other, but not that many, because you're starting to allocate a bunch of your cap. I went and I put him at 55%. Now, these are all tournament lineups, so I want to know what is his upside, but then I capped him to be on a third of my lineups. That's perfectly fine. With Harrell, I went in and picked my favorite 6 players from that last game of the night because it has the highest score. And I created a group of them, and I said, just play one from this group. And I had people at different price points because I wanted to get a little something from that last game. And that's sort of how I'm balancing that one out. I don't always advocate doing that, but for me, it was between doing that with New Orleans and Dallas or this later game. I just happened to go with the later game because the pricing was a little better, and you can get a nice more mixture between the forwards for the Clippers, who are similarly priced. They're a little more spread out than they had been the last couple of days, but Harris and Gallinari are kind of close. Harrell's kind of close. So you're kind of keeping a similar core, and it's flipping these guys in and out. And then on the other side, I wanted to make sure I had some De'Aaron Fox. Now, if I look at that, he only ended up on 16% of my lineups. I was hoping for more, but that's where it played, because you can't have some of everybody. And once you start saying, I want, 5 or 6 people where I've got them all at 30%, I don't want many more people than that, because all of a sudden you might as well be building the exact same lineup. And why play a bunch if you're going to get that tight of your grouping? So that's where I ended up with that one, Josh.
I got really aggressive with the Kings, since we're slightly talking about this Clippers-Kings game. I want to make sure I get my percentages right. I have Willie Cauley-Stein, Buddy Hield, and De'Aaron Fox, all three 60% of my lineup. So 6 of 10, a couple 3-man combos and then scattered groups of 2s, but I'm finding that game really hard to avoid. De'Aaron Fox, $33 on FanDuel. Nope, $33 on Yahoo. So used to saying FanDuel at this point. It's like breathing. Willie Cauley-Stein, only $20. He's probably one of the 2 or 3 best plays on a per dollar basis for me. And then Buddy Hield at 27. I'm just hoping this game is an absolute track meet. Clippers defense has been terrible this season, or at least over the last 30 days, giving up fantasy points 6% higher than average on a per possession basis. I'm hoping the Kings just run and run and run and run and run me into some fantasy points.
To be fair, I did take 10 of the Wizards and Detroit lineups, and 10 of their entries, and 10 of the other ones that are outside of my 100, and I game stacked both those games.
I like it.
Just because I felt that's where I could go. I only have, I think, 7% of Anthony Davis overall. I was not. Had I ended up with none of him amongst these 100 lineups, I would not have been surprised the way things were working out. I actually was kind of surprised I had 7%. So
yeah, I don't have any of him. He's $58 on Yahoo, which is a staggering number. 29% of your salary cap in one guy. Look, it's a good spot. I like the matchup for him. No problem with it. If I were playing him anywhere, it would probably be FanDuel, just because you don't have a choice. You have to put two power forwards in one way or the other. But on Yahoo, I have a really difficult time going all the way up there when guys like Drummond and Blake are in the low 40s. And no one has AD's upside on this slate, but God, he really needs to have an insane ceiling game for it to matter.
Do you have any news on Lonnie Walker? I see someone asking about that he's making his debut. I did not.
I've only seen that he can play. I haven't really seen anything on what that really means. The Spurs don't strike me as the type of team that are like, oh, Lonnie Walker can play today. Here's 38 minutes. I mean, I'd figure he gets maybe like one full rotation, 15 minutes at best. They can shave that off of just about anybody. I mean, it's not going to impact DeRozan or LaMarcus Aldridge. After that, all you're really worried about is, you shouldn't be really prioritizing a Derek White or a Bryn Forbes anyway on a slate like this. So if you want to try out some Lonnie Walker, I don't really advocate for it, but I don't really see him putting a dent into anyone that would have been relevant for the Spurs. It's still just Gay, DeRozan, and LaMarcus Aldridge for me.
All right. I wanted to see here. He has played 9 games in the G League here. He is back from an October knee surgery, they're saying, and he's been averaging, and I don't know how to get game logs for the G League, but in the 9 games he did play, he's played 24 minutes. Piecing that together with what's going on for the Roto World synopsis, it sounds like he's got in a few practices with the G Leagues. They're not talking about games. They say he should be fully recovered from the October knee surgery, but he will be brought along slowly. So for those of you that are scrambling on making lineups, just wanted to do a little bit of that legwork for you. I wouldn't play him, and I would agree with what you're saying, Josh, with regards to where the minutes could come from. And would we be shocked if it's 8 to 11 minutes?
No, not at all.
Not at all. Not at all.
I can't see him as I wouldn't play him in a single lineup if I were playing 150. There's no upside there.
I know I have a couple lineups with White, but he's cheap enough that I'm not going to worry about that.
Right, his price is crazy low. So you mentioned Towns before.
Yes.
That's the wrong game. That's Dallas and New Orleans. I'm trying. I'm still working my way. I've had so much. I don't want to say bad food because all of it's tasted fantastic, but I'm not exactly putting in like the best nutrients over the past couple days.
The fiber and the vegetables are well down the list of what's going in.
Yeah, vegetables have not been a key tenet of my life over the past 4 days.
I will say, let me hit on a couple players while you're
of course.
Bearings there. So here's some guys that are falling completely out of my lineups. Nikolai Vucevic is on one lineup. That's because I'm going with all these other centers. So while you're excited to get a certain group of people, there is the counterbalance here on the other side. The scales have to balance out. So that's a guy that I liked at the beginning of today. I'm not ending up with him. I'm not. It doesn't look like I have any DeAndre Ayton either. He's someone, could he get 35 fantasy points? Could he get close to 50? Yeah, the answer is sure, but it all depends on minutes. Well, what's going to happen with him? If you go back to those other game logs, remember one of those in his last 3 was a 3 overtime game there against the Wizards. And while that looks like a great score, and he played, I forget what it was, like 37 minutes or whatever, it took 3 overtimes for him to get to 37 minutes. That's not there. So you got to think, what is he going to get in 30 minutes? Yeah. Okay, go with it from that route. Markieff Morris, I didn't end up with hardly any outside of game stacks, even though I said run him out at $32 the way I have some of my other rules set up. he's not coming into my regular 100. He's only there at 5%. He was the guy, one of the guys we mentioned. Mason Plumlee. Here's the guy. Did you play him on Yahoo? He is 51 on DraftKings. He's going against the Spurs. We know both sides can kind of play a little bigger as needed. I ended up with more Plumlee and Jakob Poeltl than I thought I would. I've got 14% of Jakob Poeltl. I don't know that I've played him outside of if he got a spot start, 6 weeks ago randomly when Pau Gasol first went down.
I did not play any Jakob Poeltl. I understand why he would be played. I have no issue with it. 3,300 on DK. Like if you're looking for a budget guy, this is the sort of matchup to play him in. But you mentioned Mason Plumlee, $12 on Yahoo. I have him in 60% of my lineup, so 6 of the 10.
Okay.
Yeah, he's probably my favorite. As much as Mason Plumlee at $12 can be someone's favorite play of the day, Mason Plumlee is my favorite play of the day. If he's playing, let's say 28 plus minutes, which I think is a really fair estimate, at least based on the rotations they've been running. He's been at 1.06 points per minute over the last 30 days. I have him projected for 1.09. So we're looking, let's just say a point per minute. If he plays 20 minutes, that's 28 points at $12. I mean, you're really looking for 32 for Plumlee on Yahoo for it to be like a crazy good ceiling game. I mean, I'm basically projecting him at like a tournament ceiling at 12. He could easily put up like a really nice, tasty double-double with some like a block or two and, get the 40 fantasy points. And then I'm sitting pretty. He's probably my favorite value play of the day. And keep in mind, that is very much Yahoo dependent. At 6,300 on FanDuel, you can largely ignore him.
Yeah, at 5,100, I got 21% in my 100 lineups on DraftKings, which is kind of a surprise. He's right in line there. It's about where we had the field and about where we had Willie Cauley-Stein. Now, I boosted Willie Cauley-Stein a little bit because I had that rule for him to be in the last game as one of the guys. But one of the things I wanted to point out, if you're in a hurry, one of the great things about the Osmo ownership projections that, the proprietary stuff that Tom and Alex and Eddie have come up with themselves, that is, one, it's uncannily accurate, and two, it helps you understand what you can do with leverage. So if I'm in a hurry and I'm trying to get my 100 lineups in, I will upload that on Fantasy Cruncher because you can now create your own fields and columns. Yeah. I'll upload that as one of, I just usually call it the popularity column, and then I'll also put it up as my exposure column, and then it allows me to sort on stuff and say, yeah, I want a double or triple field on these guys. Oh, God, I don't want any of this person. Let me cut that in half. And you can quickly get through your first 20 or 30 key players and get the more you want. You can shape your player pool pretty quickly. So I've been having a ton of fun doing this. I'm mucking around in the low dollar stuff. That's fine by me. But it's been a lot of fun trying to understand the different strategies and understanding a lot of what you talk about a lot and what Alex talks about a lot, etc. So that's how a layperson can use that.
Yeah, I upload ownership projections every morning. Every morning, my first step is turn on randomness, add the ownership column, and then add a boosted projection column. And that's just how my morning works. I have 2 created columns every morning. Marcus Gatson in chat said, where do you guys find projected ownership projections? We find them at Osmo.com. What an incredible time to put in a plug. Marcus, if you haven't ever been with the site, if you go to Osmo.com, you sign up as if you were trying to purchase a package. Before you check out, you would get to a place where you could enter a promo code. You enter the promo code live before lock, one big word. You get a 7-day free trial. We have ownership projections, rankings, regular projections, lineup builder. If you pick a Fantasy Cruncher package, you can have access to Fantasy Cruncher for 7 days as well. You get all this stuff, and it won't cost you a single cent. Can't really beat that deal.
All right, the Slack. Here's a shout out to BPAT in the premium Slack. We boot the trolls out. We don't feed them. They are handed their refund of whatever's remaining on their subscription, and they're on their merry way. He says, by the way, for those of you that missed this, Derrick Rose says he's dropping 50 tonight.
Did he really say that?
Oh, well, BPAT did. I don't know for sure that D-Rose did or did not, but that does certainly sound like something he would say, it being a Chicago game and all, and there being ties just dramatically on both teams here. Now I feel like I need to build a Derrick Rose team because I don't know what I have him in my lineups.
I know that I do not have him. We did just get a bunch of news. Mike Conley available to play, JaMychal Green available to play, Omri Caspi available to play, Javon Carter available to play. Not that one matters. Joakim Noah, game time decision, and Marshawn Brooks available to play. Oh, wait, sorry. I read that wrong. It's Dylan Brooks available to play. Really easy to make that mistake. Marshawn and Dylan look super similar when written on the screen.
Well, you know what? Ernie Grunfeld says that too, and somehow Scott Brooks didn't confuse him in that trio. So
yeah. You mentioned Vooch earlier. I am with you. He's a guy that I thought I would have earlier today. He's a guy that I did not end up with at all. I have a ton of Drummond, a ton of Willie Cauley-Stein, Dedmon, DeAndre Jordan, Whiteside, and Towns. That's my center core today.
Yeah, I would like that. It's funny when you start building just the 10 by hand, your quote percentages, if you only want a sprinkling of somebody, but you're like, I want more than one, and all of a sudden somebody's on 2 or 3 lineups, and you're like, how did I get 30% of this guy? It's your perspective is entirely different. So that's why I usually try to, when I'm doing this, I try to go with like 100 or 50 or something that's meaningful. So then when I get somebody at 1 or 2%, I know that they're on literally 1 or 2 lineups.
Yeah, I wish I could play more lineups in Yahoo. I mean, what I really wish is that I could upload a CSV, because entering that stuff by hand feels like I'm playing in a different time period.
If it keeps them at the 10 entry max, I'll live with the having to do it by hand.
Yeah, I don't.
It's a slippery slope, and I don't want them to become like the other 2 sites.
Sure. Yeah, I just hate clicking and pointing. I'm lazy. I'm so lazy.
You millennials.
Yeah. Well, I'm 33. I've been pointing and clicking for a while now.
I didn't get the internet, or I had worked for 2 years at my first job outside of college before I had an email address, Josh.
Okay. I got my first email address in 7th grade. And that was probably pretty new to all of it. That would have been, we would have got it in like early 97. So like that's pretty early internet at that point.
That's not too bad. They're talking here about Sweet Lou. That's kind of a site dependent thing. I think he's a little spendy on DK. I only had him on a couple lineups. I think he's 6,600 there. He's much better on FanDuel, and I don't know what he is on Yahoo.
He's 20 on Yahoo. Yeah, I would have a real hard time getting to any sort of volume of Lou Will on DraftKings, just because he's priced like he's playing a way different amount of minutes. 5,400 I think is fine on FanDuel, although we're projecting him with 16% ownership. That feels too high to me. I would like Lou more if people weren't going to him, and I understand why it's become appealing. This game is the late night hammer track meet, so certainly people are trying to grab probably more than they should of this game, myself included, with Fox, Willie Cauley-Stein, and Buddy Hield. I'd be fine with it on Yahoo as well. I did not end up with him at all. But I think that Lou Will on FanDuel is the clear best spot. I don't think I'm telling anybody anything they haven't already heard either.
Just to follow up, because if we're going to throw a narrative thing out there, and it is grounded, I do want to talk about this for a sec. So here's thanks to SJM got the little article. They say just quickly, this is from Clutch Points. They say Minnesota Timberwolves point guard Derrick Rose back in his hometown of Chicago, where the T-Wolves are taking on the Bulls. Derrick Rose grew up there. He wishes he could bring all of his friends back from the old neighborhood so they can watch. The last time he came back with a new team for the first time was the Knicks. He went for 15 points, 11 assists, 7 rebounds as the Knicks won. He was booed that night intermittently, but given his resurgence in 50-point game this season, they think he will get a lot of cheers tonight because people are happy to see him, healthy once again after he had all of his ankle issues after his MVP season there. So there you are. Do with it what you will. Do with it what you will.
Yeah, I would have to boost him so much to get a lot of him. Like, he's priced, I mean, I would say like worse than appropriately.
Yeah, he's averaging, this is the rest of the article, 18.5 points, 3 boards, 4.5 assists, and he's shooting almost 50% from the field, 47% from beyond the arc. I hadn't realized it was that good from 3-point range.
Yeah, he's
and
been
84
shooting
from the line.
Insane from 3 this year.
Yeah, he needs to drop close to 30 real points to even be a factor in tonight's fantasy world, is my guess.
I would completely agree. look, we've got him projected for 2% ownership on FanDuel, 1% on DK. If you really believe in this Derrick Rose narrative for tonight, you do not have to put like a lot of chips on the table to get behind it. He's just not getting that sort of ownership. So feel free to load up. It's not recommended on my end.
Yeah. I'm not going to build out that team. I will cheer him on if he does well. I will be fine with that.
I've got a game that's been a little bit of a bugaboo for me today. Do you have any interest in anything going on in the Memphis-Cleveland game?
So when Laffy and I talked last night as we were doing the podcast, he brought up Conley, and I think Conley's okay, but this is about the time of year, if you remember back to, any of the last seemingly 7 seasons, that Conley and Gasol start to get real short minutes if they get a good blowout, or they'll start to get random rest days. Now, usually we kind of know, and I guess the last 2 years, Conley has actually been hurt, so we really had plenty of forewarning on that. But this feels like what could be an abrupt cutout in the game for both of them if Cleveland doesn't muster anything. And who's going to play well for Cleveland? I can't come up with people, and that sort of becomes a problem. And then, hey, maybe Dillon and Marshawn Brooks are in the mix for this after all. But I can't really go to this game. I'll have to look and see if the old optimizer put anybody in for me.
Yeah, so I was getting the only piece that I was really getting was Mike Conley. He popped up a lot. He's $28 on Yahoo. I think that's a really nice price for him in this matchup, but he was originally popping up at 60% and hitting the cap, and I was like, I'm not so sure that I want to have 60% Mike Conley when I figure that he'll be like 5 to 10% owned at best. So I dialed him back. I have Mike Conley in 2 of my lineups.
Yep.
So worst case scenario, it feels safe.
Yes, I think that's one way to go. So here's where I ended up, and I'm matching the field on all of these plays because of my uploading the ownership. The other thing I do is Adam and I had talked about this a few times offline. When I upload our ownership projections, I go and say anybody less than 5 bump up to 5, just because otherwise it causes some other problems, and you end up missing out on some people that probably were decent plays, or they don't get in your game stacks because they will only be in one lineup at the most. But so I've got Conley. We were projecting him at the time at 12. I had bumped that down to 7. I got 7. I'm fine with that. I've got Chetty. I've got Anderson. I've got Burks. I've got Clarkson. I've got Sexton. I've got Green. They're all in the 3, 4, or 5% range. Okay. All right, that's fine. They're all in the between 4,200, and Jordan Clarkson's the most expensive. He's probably the best of everybody that I mentioned there, but they're in that 4,200 to 4,600 on DraftKings. Sure, they're all projecting out at 5.1 to 5.3 points per thousand. Like I said, that's kind of where the break point is. And some of these guys, you need to make a team. I bet if I went and looked at those, they would be filling out a shooting guard spot or a small forward spot where I ended up with more pivot players or more point guards than I would have expected. So that one I'm okay with. If I had looked and saw I had 15 to 20%, Josh would be talking for the next 10 minutes while I redid another crunch. So.
I'm a little nervous. I have Chetty in a lineup. I don't want to be nervous isn't the right word. I have Chetty in a lineup. I'd rather not have him, but he's going to soak up a ton of minutes, and sometimes that's good. I don't know what else to say about it. He's Chetty. He's what's the rate here? 0.65 fantasy points per minute over his last 30. That's not great. I feel like I could do that. I can't, but I feel like I could. Yeah, this game is just not an appealing fantasy game. So cue the triple overtime game to break the slate or something.
Yeah. And someone's asking when the next ownership projection. There hasn't been any really slate breaking news that's come out since the last update. And if you look, tonight's one of those really weird nights that nobody is standing out because we don't, and I'm just speaking to DraftKings here, but we have just one player above 5 figures, and that's Anthony Davis. And everybody else is that you're going to want to play is in that kind of low to mid 6s. So we're not really going with scrubs, or if you're going to spend on a couple people, they're in that 8,000, maybe up to 9,000 as you get to Drummond and Cat and Griffin and those guys. So there's not really going to be enough to move anybody by more than 1 or 2%. unless something really big comes out with the news. So my guess is that's probably why there hasn't been anything changing.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect. Oh well, there's an update from what I would imagine to be Tom. Ownership will be out in 5.
There you go.
So we'll have that update, but don't expect that that's going to be anything crazy.
Yeah, if I was already doing my crunches and stuff, we know that not enough news has broken in the last 20 minutes. That wasn't just confirming what was the most likely outcome of anything. So I would be off and running and building my lineups. Now, in the next 20 minutes, it could all go to hell in a handbasket when we find out, Conley's resting, Marc Gasol's resting, something like that.
Oh, God, I don't want to see that stuff. Mostly because I'm only playing on Yahoo, and I don't want to have to go through the motions of like manually changing a bunch of lineups. I just don't want to go down that road. So NBA, if you can, for me here, just don't do anything weird.
All right. Well, pro tip for those of you on DraftKings and using Fantasy Cruncher, they have now set up what they call the Swaptimizer.
Yes.
So once the games lock, you need to download your CSV from DraftKings, upload it into Fantasy Cruncher. It then goes and looks for the little locked language and then pulls people out, and then it will update stuff around your players. This is phenomenal. I played around with it for the last couple nights here just for fun, and it takes a lot of the stress out. If I did not have that available to me, I would probably go through, if I was panicking, I would look at the slate and I would say, you know what, there's only 2 games starting at 7. I'm taking out everybody from Orlando, Phoenix, Washington, and Detroit. I'm putting in my upload, I'm uploading it, and then I'm going to go through and smartly decide what I really want from, like if I was on Yahoo and still hand building, that buys you another 30 minutes. And if there wasn't somebody you just had to have, Drummond or Griffin or Vooch or whatever, Booker, you can buy yourself a little more time to thoughtfully construct your teams. And frankly, thoughtfully constructing your teams is probably worth not having somebody from those 2 games.
For sure. SJM in Slack says Plumlee or Dedmon, cash. Site is going to be super important for this one.
Oh God!
If it's Yahoo, it's Plumlee for me. I don't know Dedmon's prices on DraftKings off the top of my head, so let me.
I think he's 5,500 for Dedmon. I think it's 5,100 for Plumlee. I would probably go with Plumlee. I know I have a little bit more of him. Let me see what Dedmon's price is. Dedmon is 5,200. So the only bit of concern I have at all for Dedmon is, Collins is back. Dedmon's been dinged up here and there. We know that Alex Len is out, but it's Atlanta. You never figure out what the hell these guys are doing. The one cool thing that they've done with Dedmon is they said, we want you to take a couple threes a game and focus on doing that. So that's kind of nice, but it doesn't necessarily help us here in cash. So I think I would still go with Plumlee, just a little bit safer of a play. But I think Dedmon is somebody who oftentimes just gets the short shift across the industry. He does have the ability to put up a 40 fantasy point game, but he will go sub 20 on you. And it's usually because he gets into foul trouble. That's his one big risk. And he's fouled out of the last 2 games. So there's the one word of caution. Now, he is fouled out. Those are the only 2 games he's fouled out this year. They just so happen to be his last 2. So there you are. But he usually gets around 4 fouls in a game. So it is always in play.
Yeah, I have those guys separated by 0.3 of a fantasy point. So I don't really have an opinion on the 2. Plumlee feels safer to me. Dedmon is a little dinged up. It is the Hawks. That game could go many different ways. It's not an appealing spot for Atlanta whatsoever. So I would keep an eye on ownership and make a decision there. But as far as projections from me, those guys are about as close to a coin flip as it gets, which is not what anybody wants to hear.
Sometimes it's going to be like that on certain nights. Like tonight, they're asking a great question in cash. Would you go with Karl-Anthony Towns or Drummond? I want Karl-Anthony Towns on my teams, but I like Drummond, and I just have to sit back and think about the Wizards. Drummond is so in play for a 2020 game tonight. I want that.
Yeah,
I have a hard time seeing him not getting to 40. Cat, if I'm remembering off the top of my head, I think he's cleared 40 once in the last 5 games, DraftKings scorings. Now, he's also the guy I would bet on to get 70 over Drummond.
Sure.
But just if I want to feel a little bit safer, Drummond. I mean, who's going to guard him? It's not Bryant, it's not Jan Mahimny, and it's not Markieff Morris. Well, they will be out there, but they're not going to slow him down.
Not at all. Thoughts on Vooch and Forbes versus Willie Cauley-Stein and Murray on a DK GPP? I mean, for me, it's Willie Cauley-Stein and Murray, just because the other one includes Bryn Forbes.
I would agree. Murray, I've got at 23%. He's someone I bumped our cap slightly. And I tweaked our projections just a tiny bit to get him up to 35. I think we had him at, I don't know, like 31 or 32, because I wanted to get him on some of my teams. If you go look at his game logs, he is a great guy for tournaments. Yeah. And when you consider with the Spurs, what they are defensively this year is nowhere near what they have been the last 2, 3, 4, 10 years. And it's something that I don't think we as daily fantasy players take advantage of enough, because there is no Dejounte Murray, DeJounte Murray. That it's a mess there. There's no Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, I think there's just so much more upside with Murray and Willie Cauley-Stein than Vooch, and there's very little upside in Bryn Forbes tonight, in my opinion. Especially if
Forbes gets 20, you're doing a little fist like, yeah, he sort of got there.
Right.
That's not what I want in a tournament, unless you're 3,400 or whatever. So,
any other games we need to touch on that are good that we really haven't talked about?
Well, we did. I don't know that we did enough on Dallas and New Orleans.
Yeah, let's hit it.
The main thing that for the way things worked out for me on DraftKings is, again, I was surprised I ended up with about 7% Anthony Davis. I wouldn't have been shocked if I got 0 of him, but he's a phenomenal guy. The problem is there's just too many other people in the mix tonight that can get to 60 to 55 to 60 fantasy points. We need Davis to get to 65 or 70. Yeah. Yikes. Who's going to get to 100 tonight potentially? Davis, Jokic, if he gets, a triple-double with 15s across the mix, maybe.
Right.
I don't know.
There's not a lot out there.
Yeah, it's not going to be many people. So, yes, but most times you're looking at 20, 25% of your salary cap. I can't do it. I think that I did not think that Dennis Smith Jr. was going to play tonight. I
wanted him to.
Yeah, because he's cheap on a bunch of sites. So when he comes back, he should be ready to play. I think they rushed him back early in that one game, because now I think he's played one of his last 8 or almost 9 games now. Yeah. So I like Barea off the bench. Love him there. He's not going to ever start. It's going to be Dorian Finney-Smith and Brunson that get the starting duties, but those guys don't excite me at all. I think this keeps Doncic in play as a tournament option, because we've seen him approaching 50 fantasy points sort of regularly. That's become his new baseline to not deviate from. Josh is between 45 and 50 fantasy points.
He's fantastic.
Between 32 and 36 fantasy points.
He's absolutely fantastic. Barnes is a guy I'm getting a lot of. He's $20 on Yahoo. No Dennis Smith, as we were just mentioning. I think I have him in 3 of my lineups. Yeah, I do. Nope, I have 2. The $20 price tag is just really appealing to me. I'm looking for him to hit 40 or so. And in this game, at this pace for Dallas in a pace-up spot, like Barnes might have the chance to, get a couple extra shots up. I'll take my chances with that at 20. But lots of DeAndre Jordan for me, lots of Barnes. No Luka. He's 35 on Yahoo. I'm going to need him to get to like 55 there, which is certainly reasonable, but might be a tough sell. I'd rather just cheer for him. If he wants to beat me and go for 60 tonight, it'll probably just be really entertaining to see the highlights for it. I can handle that. And then from the Pelican side, I don't have anything. AD at $58 on Yahoo is close to impossible for me. Drew Holiday's 44. I'm going to have a real difficult time going there. And after that, it's, Randall for $39, too expensive. Otherwise, I'm just picking out of the scrap heap of Eton Moore or Tim Frazier or the resurrected Jahlil Okafor. I'm good. I'd like to like the Pelicans more. I just don't like the pricing.
Yeah, here's what I did on DraftKings for my 100 here. I said Drew Holiday I really like. He's 8,800. I upped his projection by about 5 points. I put him to 47. I said I'm going to go 3 times the field. So we have him about 7% ownership. I still only got 14%. So I only doubled, but he's the guy I wanted. I said, you know what? If enough people might be going to Davis and something happens to Davis, a rumbling, his tumbly, whatever it might be, Holiday's the one guy I want there. So that's the only reason. But I mean, I've got him on 16 out of 100, 14 out of 100 lineups. That's kind of whatevs, it's not, it's in the same range where I have De'Aaron Fox, who I really, really liked, but you could only get so many players, but I'm almost double the field. Okay. That's what I want. It may not feel like a lot to me, but if the right lineups connect, I'll be doing quite nicely. If they don't connect, I've still got a bunch of other ones that could.
Yeah, I have no issue with Drew Holiday for 88 on DK. And the guys around him, from a guard perspective, Oladipo, Wall, Booker, Kemba Walker, these are all guys just right underneath him. All of those guys are owned either more than him or at the exact same rate. So, being different and going to Drew, paying up a little bit, like it's easier to say, oh, I'd rather just get Wall at 86 than 88 for Drew. I could see people making that decision just for money, which might artificially push Drew's ownership down. He's in a great spot if Anthony Davis gets a hangnail or something.
Someone was asking, do you like any guards below 4,000 or below on DraftKings? I actually don't. DJ Augustine, I do like. He's 4,200. The only guy that's 4K or below that I would consider is Patrick Beverley. I'd probably be doing cartwheels if he gets 18 to 20 fantasy points. It's just not exciting there in that particular range. There's just not the cheapies we need.
No, I mean, I'd probably roll the dice on like Derek White. I don't like it. I thought that Adam made an interesting point on the deeper dive just before us. No Jamal Crawford tonight for the Suns. If DeAnthony Melton can soak up a couple extra minutes, I think that he can become someone that is potentially relevant in tournaments. I totally agree with that take. But, be prepared to be let down. There's really not anything at that 4 and lower spot today. I mean, someone will pop just by default, but I'm having a pretty hard time figuring out who that might be. It's a long list of nothing good.
Someone was asking about Saric putting up a really good game against Chicago the last time. A lot's kind of changed since then.
Yeah.
Looking at that game, that was back when it was kind of an iron 5 or 6 with Wendell Carter Jr., Robin Lopez, Justin Holiday, Jabari Parker started and played 38 minutes. Parker's probably won't even play today. Bobby Portis, I think he's still injured. Chandler Hutchison didn't play at all in that game, but he's going to play 30-ish minutes. Lauri Markkanen didn't even play in that game. He's going to play 30-ish minutes. Chris Dunn didn't play. He's going to play in this game. So much has changed already. I don't like to do game. I like to go look at them as much as anybody else, but enough has changed in this one where I'd just be like, I can't trust it, and I'd have to toss it to the wayside.
Yeah, no Saric for me, no Taj Gibson for me. I don't want to hash out those guys. It'd be Towns, and probably that's it of anybody on Minnesota, unless we get like some weird Rose late scratch news, at which point fire up Josh Okogie.
But he's going for 50.
Yeah.
How can he late scratch and let down the old neighborhood? Come on.
We got like a ton of questions there in Premium Slack, so let's rip through a bunch of them with 8 minutes to go. Thoughts on Winslow tonight at a weak small forward position on FanDuel? I can be quick there. He's 5,500. I don't see him as terribly interesting. If you like him, go for it. I don't really think that's the game. I don't think it's the best value.
I would agree. He's someone I did mention on the podcast, and Spoelstra has come out and said, yeah, he's going to be running. He's going to be the facilitator on the first unit. D-Wade's going to be on the second unit. That doesn't really change a ton. It's just kind of solidifying what's already happening. But in looking at this, sitting back and thinking about Toronto and all of this, I ended up without Winslow, to the best of my knowledge here.
Okay. Gilgeous-Alexander or Markieff Morris in a DK GPP?
Ooh, two very inconsistent players.
Yeah.
I don't think I could trust. God, I think this is going to sound that's one of those. Markieff has a better shot at getting to 40. He's also got a way better shot at finishing below 20. I don't really see Gilgeous-Alexander getting over 30, but I think he's more likely to get to 30 than Markieff is.
Yeah, if it's a DK GPP, I'll take Markieff Morris, but I'm not super stoked about either guy. Jesus. Okay, Fox, Okogie, or Bielitsa, Kojo, Depot, or Bojan. So 3 Pacers against Fox, Okogie, and Bielitsa. I mean, I guess the Pacers in that I don't really have any interest in Josh Okogie if Derrick Rose isn't playing.
Yeah, that's probably where I would go. You had me at Fox, and then it kind of went sideways there.
And don't play 3 Pacers.
No.
Not today.
I made a concession today, funny enough, on both Harrison Barnes and Thaddeus Young. Normally, I can't stand playing those guys because they just kind of do whatever it is they do. But they're both in pace-up games. They're both playing against teams that turn over the ball more, and that's something those guys can do is get steals. So I allowed myself – my concession was to go half above the field. So I went – if the field was 6, I went to 10. If the field was 7, I went to 12.
Sure.
So normally I take half of what the field is just for reference. So on those two.
Oladipo or DeRozan on Yahoo. I'm going to assume that they are right next to each other in price. I don't have it off. I do have it now. Oladipo and DeRozan are both $35 on Yahoo. I know who I prefer, but I'll let you.
Who has the better steals upside on FanDuel?
Gotta be Oladipo in my opinion.
Then I would go that would be my kind of tiebreaker.
Hawks are 30th in turnover rate offensively. So, while that doesn't necessarily mean just straight steals, it does mean that they are going to cough up the ball.
Yes.
So, yeah, I like Oladipo quite a bit. That's probably someone that we didn't really talk about. But I've got him in 5 of my 10 lineups tonight.
I rarely play him, but now that I'm on... Oh, it doesn't look like I have him. Yeah, I don't have him at all.
Yeah, I'm oddly aggressive on Oladipo tonight at that point.
Oh, that's not true. 5%. 5%. Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, $35. I need him to get to 55 in that case. I'll take it. I'll take my chances against Atlanta. He can put up a big line really quickly. And if he has one of those games where he's just corralling as many stocks as he can, his big games always come when he's got like 5 steals and 3 blocks or something as a guard, and you don't see those all that often.
Yeah, and as we saw from yesterday's game, the blocks really make a difference, and steals really make a difference on Yahoo and FanDuel because you get 3 for them. I think it's 1.5 or 2 on DraftKings. DraftKings is a little different because you get the bonus points for double doubles and triple doubles, but getting to the upside is just Giannis was like kind of tied for the best player of the night on DraftKings. Wasn't even close on FanDuel and on Yahoo when I went to bed before the last game was over. It was just like, oh wow, now I see why people were saying people couldn't win with Harden up at the top, because it was just that different. So
any thoughts on Avery Bradley as a late punt on FanDuel? I mean, I'm the guy to ask. I get him constantly, but don't do it. Don't do it.
You already know who's your lowest score is going to be because he's not going to beat it in that last game. So.
If you're desperately looking to just drop a shooting guard score, pick someone for $400 less and see if you can upgrade somewhere else. Tonight will be the night that he goes crazy, but when I play him, he gets 3 fantasy points in 36 minutes.
Yeah.
That I know that I can do in an NBA game. I could luck myself into a loose ball rebound and a jumping a passing lane for a steal.
I would be running down on offense as the team has come down, scored the bucket, and is coming back on defense, and maybe I would startle somebody into getting a ball. I'd get a ball. That would be how it would work for me. In other words, very slim chance.
Let's see what else we got. FanDuel GPP, Towns or Vooch. They are separated by $200. Vooch projected to have a little bit more ownership. I preferred Towns just in general. I assume you do as well.
Correct.
Okay. Oh, there's an interesting one. Lauri Markkanen or Tobias Harris on Yahoo. That's 2 guys that I did not look at for a single second today.
I like Markkanen better.
So do I.
Because that's just where I'm going to come down on that one.
I'm with you.
I don't think I have.
I have Markkanen projected 0.6 of a point behind Harris, but you're also saving $3, which doesn't sound like a lot when you say it out loud, but $3 on Yahoo means a lot more than, like, I don't know, $3 somewhere else.
Yeah, $3 is a ton on Yahoo. I'd still go with Markkanen. I just think he has a little bit more of an upside. Harris isn't bad, and he's been particularly solid over his last his last 5 games. He's gone, low 30s, and he's got one at 40, mid 40s, and one at mid 50s. But prior to that, he had just been slumping. He was playing his same minutes and scored 25 fantasy points, 14 fantasy points, etc. So I just like Markkanen a little bit better. What I think Tobias Harris has done and has become with that Clippers teams is awesome.
Yeah.
And he's a great real basketball player, and he's someone I like on DraftKings when he dips below 7,500. But
yeah, I would rather have Tobias Harris in cash than Lauri Markkanen tonight.
Yeah, it'd be close for me. It'd be close. Just because of the matchup against Minnesota. I love that matchup for Markkanen.
We've got 1 minute to go, and then I am going to go bury myself in some steak and mashed potatoes. I'm super excited about it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That will be the version of Daddy Likey, is Josh is going to go have some steak and mashed potatoes.
Yeah. Daddy I'm going to be drooling into a plate of mashed taters and steaks that I put in the water bath 4 hours ago. Whew. We are locked. 7 o'clock on the dot. I'm excited for this. And I'm even more excited because I have so much Fox and Heald and Willie Cauley-Stein. I've got a shot all the way through the night. Like, I won't know how I do until I wake up. Same way it was this morning. Woke up after Christmas. I had no idea how I did. And there was an extra digit in my balance on Yahoo. I love those days.
Very nice.
And it wasn't cents. Nice. They didn't finally add pennies and nickels and dimes and shit. Ooh, do you have any ownership popped up? Anything interesting before we get out of here? I'm going to take a look in Yahoo quickly just to see if anything popped up. That's kind of wild for the early games, but I don't get the sense that I have a ton of those games.
Let me get over to
Bradley Beal 5% on Yahoo, Drummond 20%, Devin Booker 10%. Didn't really look at Booker tonight.
Yeah, he's someone that kind of just fell out of the mix for me.
Is there anybody else before we get out of here?
Why won't DK pull up? Here we go. They're doing. Oh God, they didn't realize they were doing. So here's the $15 mini main event, $500,000 prize pool, $100K to first. God, 20% of the prize pool to first is a lot. We have 4 teams in action. I'm talking while I'm downloading the file. Here we go. We have Vooch at 19, Drummond at 15. Oh, I like the Drummond because I'm higher than that. Griffin at 14. I like that. Jeff Green at 13. Ariza. I don't think I got enough Ariza tonight. Ariza at 12.5. John Wall at 12.5. Booker at 10. TJ Warren at 8. Reggie Jackson at 8. And Beal and Augustine at 6. So
there you go.
Markieff Morris 4. DeAndre Ayton, if he gets those minutes, 3.5.
Ooh. All right, everybody. That is it. A live before lock in the books for myself and EMAC, and we will be back again. When?
Friday, I believe.
We will be back again on Friday. Can't beat it. Live before lock is the promo code, 7-day free trial if you're interested. I don't have any other plugs, so I hope everyone's still enjoying their holiday. Best of luck tonight. EMAC, anything else?
Hit that like button.
There you go. Hit that like button, everybody. Drop a comment. Tell us how awesome we are. We love to hear it. Tell us how awesome we are. We love to hear it. Let me stay on brand. Best of luck, everybody. We'll talk to you later.